The Slayer is a little-seen slasher of sorts from 1982 that, for one reason or another, I had ridiculously high hopes for. Maybe it was the artwork, or the title font, those seemed pretty rad. Or maybe it was the premise, which sounded like an early take on the Nightmare on Elm Street formula. Then I got to finally see it, and, well, it wasn't the film I'd hoped it would be. Let's discuss why. An awkward grouping of artists who all seem thoroughly displeased with one another decide to take a vacation to a mostly deserted island that appears to have one house and one abandoned movie theater on it. Immediately, my 21st century brain is screaming, why would you do this? Why would you go here? Don't do this. But that's just me. I'd like some connection to the outside world, even though I want no part of it these days. To make matters worse for these characters, though, there's a hurricane coming. Because of course there is.
I came back to warn you.
Warn us about what?
Well, the report from the Coast Guard says there's a storm moving up from the Gulf. They're real unpredictable this time of year.
Weather looks okay to me.
Things ain't always what they appear to be. I used to live on this island, know what a storm can do. It'll come at you from all sides. Make it impossible for me to land a plane.
One member of the group keeps dreaming about a spooky thing, a thing that keeps murdering her friends. I think she's afraid that the thing is being brought to life by her dreams. Which, if that's the case, why did you decide to jaunt off to a deserted island with them? Anyway, I don't know really, this movie is kind of a chore to get through. It's like dinner theater with really short bursts of violence. Really short. Like, non-existent almost. That's the problem with Slayer, it's barely about anything. So, unless you like characters judging and sniping at each other the whole time with 8 seconds of violence every 40 minutes, I'd advise you to steer clear. Although if I do have to say something nice about this one, the score might be better than the movie deserves. It's solid. While I've found the film to be a slog, the extra features on the Arrow Video Blu-ray are pretty fascinating if you're into detailed background on obscure horror flicks. First, there's a nearly hour-long documentary about the film's production, with a number of interviews with the primary cast and crew. First-time director Joe Cardone, who for me is most famous as the writer of 1990's Crash and Burn, explains that much of the cast and crew came up through the theater ranks, which makes perfect sense. Also interviewed is the film's female cinematographer Karen Grossman, who later shot Microwave Massacre and Hamburger the Motion Picture. She details some of her issues with being a first-time cinematographer, and a female one to boot, telling a story about how the studio had another cinematographer shadow her for a few days thinking she was going to fail. She didn't. The film's special effects are also discussed at great length. Hell, they're talked about longer than they actually appear in the film itself. And much of the time is spent talking about Tybee Island, Georgia, where the film was shot. That leads into the next extra on the disc, which is a location tour. A seemingly hot trend in the world of horror movie extras these days. This one, though, is pretty good since it's a unique location. The Slayer's camera operator tells us stories of the production while touring the island. The theater scene in the film is, of course, a major location to revisit, and is now a fully functional theater and performing arts center again. They held a screening of this film for the island's residents, and there's some footage from that event. Do you like alternate audio tracks? Well, you're in luck. There are 4 additional tracks on the disc. A commentary by the cast and crew, a track by the Hysteria Continues, which I guess is going to be Arrow Video's go-to podcast commentary crew, an isolated score track with interviews with the composer, and then the final track, which is the audience audio from the Tybee Island theater screening that plays mixed with the film's audio, so it's like watching it along with the screening audience as the film plays with audio from inside the theater. Finally, I want to mention the film's trailer, which kind of reveals all the goods. I mean, all the goods. Although the trailer is dated 1987 and might be from a re-release of the film. Still, everything that happens in the film is in this trailer. By all accounts, The Slayer has had a rough road making it to Blu-ray. It's been rarely seen in its original form and was bootlegged to death over time from inferior sources. Arrow's new Blu-ray is a terrific treatment for the slasher, it's just a shame it wasn't more up my alley.